Live from tape pre-recorded at our studios in Austin, Texas and Portland, Oregon, it's Syndicated with Lesley and Ben. Hey everyone, I am the Ben of that.
And I'm the Lesley. This is a twice-monthly podcast about television, genre, and storytelling in which we watch an episode of a show and explore the history of television, one episode at a time.
If you're just now joining us, we are wrapping up our crime season, but we're also talking today about The Wire, the lauded HBO crime series that ran for 5 seasons from 2002 to 2008. Each season of The Wire is set in the American city of Baltimore, but each season focuses on a particular part of Baltimore life, government, and commerce, and how it interacts with crime and the police. The episode that we picked today is from Season 2, which focuses on the container cargo system coming through Baltimore's many docks. The show itself is named after wiretapping, a tool that increased in use by police departments after 9/11 and the Patriot Act, and then never decreased in use.
Yeah, funny that. I'm
sure the show's like about that, and obviously because we only watch one episode at a time,
right. It's we're not going to really get into the nitty gritty of that. I mean, but for all we know, it addresses that point.
I'm sure it has, but I don't think it's controversial to state that the Patriot Act may have overstayed its welcome.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. The show was created by HBO with David Simon, a former reporter for the Baltimore Sun who wrote the nonfiction book Homicide, A Year on the Killing Streets in 1991 after being embedded with the Baltimore Police Department. That book was turned into the TV show Homicide, Life on the Street for NBC, and it would later be adapted again into The Wire. Simon was the lead writer and executive producer for The Wire. So something I want to say about this really quickly.
For sure.
Cannot believe that we are deprived of a world in which John Munch did not appear on The Wire. Like, it just doesn't feel right.
Is that, I never saw Homicide. Which character is that?
John Munch is, that is the character. But I don't know if you're aware of, like, the John Munch extended universe or not.
I absolutely am not. Hit me.
So there is a character played by Richard Belzer called John Munch.
Oh, may he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. And I believe that the very first appearance of this character was as kind of a series regular on Homicide, Life on the Street. Now, I've never watched Homicide, Life on the Street, so I'm not actually sure. Maybe it was like Dick's original seasoning of Law and Order. I'm not sure. But he ended up being a hugely integral part of SVU. Of Law and Order SVU. But then John Munch, the character, became so popular in like the late 90s, early aughts.
Right.
That he started crossing over into properties in which he had no business being in. Quite frankly, like he exists, like he was on, the character of John Munch was like on an episode of 30 Rock. Like he was, I want to say in an episode of Sesame Street, not Richard Belzer, John Munch, the character. So, yeah, he's in so many things.
I happen to have the list right in front of me.
Yes.
Folks, if you don't know, Richard Belzer, I believe, passed. Yeah. Oh, wow. Only about a year ago.
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago at all.
It was February of last year. Appearances include, in addition to Homicide, Life on the Streets, Law and Order, a show you would assume he'd be on.
Yeah.
The X-Files, okay, sure.
Okay.
The Beat, a very Brady sequel. That's right, exactly what you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Law and Order, Trial by Jury, once again, a show you'd think he would be on.
Sure.
Arrested Development.
That's right.
30 Rock,
yep.
Sesame Street, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and a little-known HBO series called The Wire.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he is in The Wire.
He is in The Wire.
Okay.
Sorry, hold on. I'm scrolling down his Wikipedia page. It's so funny they put his real awards and decorations like he's an actual
John Munch is real. Shut the fuck up. John Munch is real. And the John Munch extended universe is my favorite extended universe of all time. And I am delighted to find out that he actually is in The Wire.
He is in the 7th episode of the 5th season of The Wire. Can you imagine being a lifelong Wire fan and then all of a sudden, almost at the end, this dude just walks in?
Here he comes. John coming. John Munch, baby.
A Muppet version of Munch appeared in the Sesame Street sketch Law and Order Special Letters Unit.
Yeah.
This is so funny. He was on American
Dad. I know, it's the best thing ever.
Is that one of the good episodes of Arrested Development? Let me check real quick. It's season 3.
But yeah, so that's
wild.
My thing, I love that you were educated on that because I said something wildly incorrect. So love that. So love that for Bud. Love being confidently incorrect. Love that for both of us.
Hey, that's like 25% of the show, right?
True.
Yeah. But back to Homicide, Year on the Killing Streets. A book so good they adapted it twice, evidently.
Twice. Yeah. That was what prompted me to be like, why isn't Munch in this? Because he was in the other one. Because they adapted this one book twice, which makes me really want to read the book because they're both very critically acclaimed shows.
Yeah, I am wondering, because I don't want to watch, and obviously this is kind of an ethical thing that's come up over the course of the season, but I don't want to watch something that's too pro-cop on account of the fact that cops suck.
Sure.
But, so I would certainly be interested in reading that. I am on a bit of a nonfiction streak here and there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, perhaps that's worth my time. It doesn't sound like, it sounds like David Simon is, and obviously I'm sure there are people who have slightly better insight on his relationship with policing, specifically from this show. But it sounds like he is kind of maybe, while not as critical of policing as maybe we'd want him to be, he does seem to not be as glorifying either.
Well, I guess if, for him to have been a reporter for the Baltimore Sun, I'm sure that he's probably seen all kinds of stuff because, crime's pretty high in Baltimore too.
Certainly.
So the everyday boots on the ground line between those two might be a little more gray than they are where we're sitting in Portland and Austin. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I mean, and that's the conceit of shows like this is kind of showing how gray it all might be. Yeah, Simon seems to be, more on the left side of all things. So who knows? I would believe based on things that he's written that I think he's stated that like violence is just kind of part of the equation. I think he maybe has a very realistic look at what it is, as opposed to, again, all these other shows that are obviously very pro the power of cop. So Dominic West plays Detective Jimmy McNulty, our initial protagonist at the beginning of the show. McNulty does not appear for very long in this episode, but is instrumental in helping to take down the Greeks' crime ring throughout the season after he finds a dead body in the Patapsco River. West is currently playing Charles III on The Crown, which, okay.
You know what I know him from the most? Is it's a film.
Right.
It's a film starring Sandra Bullock, and it's called 28 Days.
Of course. How could I forget 28 Days?
It's about this lady who goes to rehab, and he plays her, her partner, who's waiting for her and is kind of a douchebag. But I've seen that movie several times, and so that's what I think of when I see his face.
Entirely understandable. I am looking at photos of Dominic West as Prince Charles. Now, of course, Charles III, King of England, soon to be Charles the Deceased, dead of cancer. For a second, I thought, was that too dark? And then you started doing circus music. So the answer is no, not dark enough.
Not dark. You can go darker, Ben. You can always go darker.
I mean, fuck the crown. Well, not the show The Crown. Fuck the monarchy.
The actual
I'm sure the show The Crown is fine. There he is, Lesley, over there on the left.
Let's take a look here. Okay. That just looks like Dominic West
This one Vogue article suggests Dominic West is far too hot to play Prince Charles.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, let me embiggen that a little bit. Yeah, that wasn't good casting, I don't think.
I mean, I see it in the ears, obviously.
A little, but I think that's mostly what they've done with his hair.
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't know. Hope he's having fun. The Crown is something that will never. I can watch something like Succession where it's rich people fighting, but when it's just like too tied up with like real history, I was about to say,
I just in recent history about people who are still living. Hopefully not for much longer, but yeah, it's when it's real people, it's weird.
Yeah, it's I mean, all right, you know what? Not to take that point too far, but like, this is also fake, right? But it's like it's obviously right. It's got some real connections to real things that happen in Baltimore and real locations and whatnot, but none of the events in this story are quite literally real. Same with, Succession, it can be a parody of like how Disney and Fox and all those kind of major media families, why am I suddenly blanking on the Fox proprietor? What's his name? Evil piece of shit. Just the worst human being alive. I've been watching too much to Foxland lately, so I'm still stuck on Eisner. I can't remember can't remember who's responsible now. Yeah, but the Fox proprietor, because that's what Succession is. It's like halfway between. It's halfway between, like, the company might as well be Disney, but then Brian Cox is essentially playing Rupert Murdoch. Thank you. Yes. Thank you to me. Thank you to you. But like Brian Cox is essentially playing like Rupert Murdoch on that show in terms of like, right, just big right-wing billionaire who controls a big media empire. But anyway, like, it's close enough, but obviously it's like divorced from the real events of the world, even if it's commenting on that. Whereas like something about the Crown, I don't know, that's just maybe like a little too literally real people for me to latch onto it. I can read that kind of stuff as a book. I don't know why I can't handle it as a biopic. I don't know. Who knows? Idris Elba plays Stringer Bell, a tactical, business-minded drug dealer who has amassed power as part of the Barksdale family. Much like McNulty, Elba does not feature prominently in this particular episode, but the episode does give us hints as to what Bell is working on in the story to come. Everybody recognizes Idris Elba from his performances in the MCU as Heimdall, as Fast and Furious villain in Hobbs and Shaw, the Sonic franchise as Knuckles. He's been, in crime TV, he went on to star as Detective Inspector Luther in the BBC show Luther. I love Idris Elba. He's great. I know. He's wonderful. And I love that you didn't know that he was in this. I had no clue. Cute. That was like the one thing I knew about the show. It's the only thing I knew. We'll get to him in a second, but I knew Lance Reddick was from this. I did not know Idris Elba was from this. Yeah, I just, cause I saw all those back when I was really into Doctor Who, I would see all those ads for other BBC America TV shows, Luther. And I was like, sure. And I don't know, he looks pretty young in that. I genuinely thought like, oh, this is Idris Elba's first thing, Luther. Nope. He was in a whole TV show less than 10 years before that. He was in for several years. One of the best TV shows. Yeah, apparently. He's great in this. I was never fully on the Idris Elba should be the next James Bond train. I have no opinions about James Bond. I just don't give a shit. I do not care. Fair. That was mostly my stance. I like James Bond stuff, but I was perfectly content to let Daniel Craig continue to do it for a while. I wouldn't even go so far as to say I quote unquote like it. It's like no, that's fine. Yeah. I like the world we have now where Idris Elba is just doing whatever he wants. Sure. I like that. I'm into it. Lesley, a fun side fact for you. Sure. An unseen munch is mentioned by Detective Chief Inspector John Luther as an NYPD SUV contact on episode 5 of the UK crime drama Luther. Notably, DCI Luther is played by Idris Elba, who played Stringer Bell in the HBO drama The Wire, where Munch previously cameoed. That's amazing! So
That's
he's
my
everything.
favorite thing that I learned today. Thanks, Ben.
You're so welcome. Chris Bauer plays Frank Sabatka, although not for very long in this particular episode, since the character is found dead during the opening credits. Sabatka
Womp womp.
is the respected treasurer of the local union of stevedores, but is implicated in the criminal dealings happening at the dock where his union works. When he tries to turn information over to the police, he is brutally killed. Bauer currently features as a recurring character on For All Mankind and was in David Simon's later show, The Deuce.
Oh, okay.
I get the impression, obviously he's like not acting in this scene, in this
sure.
episode, because he's dead.
Because he's
which,
dead. Oh!
Acting.
I think I think I know where I know him from.
Mm-hmm.
His face is embedded in my brain. He's from The Devil's Advocate. That movie.
The Al Pacino.
Yes!
Yeah.
With Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, where Al Pacino's a devil and he's Eddie Lomax, and that's where I know that guy's face from.
I saw it as recently as last year, again, because I love Pacino. So what can I say?
Well, and it's so
you're correct.
good.
He plays Lloyd Geddes. I want to say that is the name of is that the billionaire that they're defending for assault?
Yes, it is at the very beginning.
Oh, no. It's it's the opening scene. It's the school teacher
That's what I was saying. Oh, sorry. I conflated the charges, but he was the guy from the beginning that Eddie Lomax got off for kitty diddling, which is revolting. And then Al Pacino's like, I'm the devil. That man is somebody I want working for me. So, and that's, yeah.
Folks, that movie is worth rewatching. I only watched it last year. I'm not going to say it holds up, but it is a weird time.
Oh, it's a weird time. It's such a weird time.
And I do love a weird time. I also like Paradise Lost, and this is 50% Paradise Lost.
True.
I mean, literally, Al Pacino's character is John Milton.
Yes. Right. Like his name is literally John Milton. Anyway, The Wire.
So obviously Chris Bauer doesn't act a ton in this episode because he's a corpse.
Right.
And the character of Frank Sabatka obviously has some lasting impact. I don't want this to get conflated with like, oh my God, I thought his performance was really cool. Because I didn't. I mean, he's just, but from a writing standpoint and from everybody else's acting, I gotta say, I felt like this was a very realistic, and that's something I'll say about the rest of the show going forward, realistic and felt very natural kind of like actual fallout of a real person dying within a fictional world.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Ben. Like as I was watching it, and it showed like 3 or 4 different individual reactions to like looking down upon his body, and these are like people who are in those circles who already knew he was dead, who have seen a dead body. Like they're not like Joe Blows from down the street; they're police officers and all that kind of stuff. And to see them become visually upset, it's like, oh, okay, so this guy's really important. Okay. I thought that was really, really cool. The fact that like I've never watched this before, and yet I was like, yeah.
Both the lengthy, almost silent opening sequence, which I'm sure we'll talk about more a little later on. But also just like all the times they would cut back to people who knew him. It felt like a very kind of realistic portrayal of having just the surprise loss of it all and the immediate grief of it all. Very much felt like, a legacy or a character with some legacy has disappeared. Not a legacy character like Green Lantern. A character with some legacy has disappeared. And like, I very much felt the absence of this character throughout the entire show. With the way everyone was reacting, which I
totally agree.
I don't always, and I wonder if it's because I feel like a lot of shows that, are not quite procedurals, but like are obviously, grief doesn't last super long on TV sometimes because it's like because one, it's often very uncomfortable and hard to write about, but two, there is very much a thing of like, okay, we got to keep the plot going though, right? And it very much felt like in this episode, things really did stop because a character died.
Yes, I completely agree. with you. I think that was done in such a way that we were really made to feel the impact of his passing and his absence in their investigation in the world and all of that stuff. I think that was really cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Lance Reddick plays Cedric Daniels, a detective in the Baltimore Police Department, who is trying to pick apart the related crimes circulating around the Baltimore docks and apprehend the Greeks. Reddick played the stoic hotel concierge Sharon in the John Wick franchise and was the voice of Commander Zavala in the Destiny video game franchise. And he unfortunately passed away only last year. I remember that, actually.
Genuinely devastating. It was like right before John Wick 4 came out and everything.
That's right. That's right.
In fact, I believe there was even a little in memory of our friend Lance title card for John Wick 4. Like, it was like the week before it came out. And obviously, I have some friends who play Destiny. There was like a bunch of like, essentially like shrines and tributes inside the game for him.
Yeah.
Apparently, anecdotally, he played it all the time, and he loved that community.
Really?
Yeah, that he just casually, he like voice acted it, but then he also just like got really into the game and just played it with a ton of, just was in the servers all the time.
Man, Peter Dinklage could never.
Yeah. Anyway, rest in peace. Truly a titan.
Yeah.
Pablo Schreiber plays Nick Sabatka in this episode. Nick is delusioned after the murder of his uncle Frank Sabatka by the Greek and his gang of organized criminals, and attempts to turn himself into the cops. It's his testimony that sets the dominoes in motion to arrest the Greek. After The Wire, Schreiber has more recently played major roles in Orange is the New Black, in which he was the character known as Pornstache, I believe.
Mm-hmm. He was.
And in the new Paramount series, Halo, in which he is playing Master Chief.
At the same time that he was playing Pornstache in Orange is the New Black, he was also playing an extremely disgusting character in SVU that had a multiple episode arc that was like one of the most disgusting storylines in that show's history. So,
gross. Yeah,
so that's when I see him, I always think of that time that he did those disgusting things.
I feel I needn't ask.
It's not important. It's not important. Trauma porn.
Well,
what do you want?
When I see it, how am I supposed to walk away? How am I supposed to bounce off that?
Sorry.
Well, when I see him, I guess I think Master Chief.
There you go. See, which is better.
I actually think he was one of the better performances in this episode specifically.
I agree. I thought he did a really, really good job. And I couldn't place where I remembered him from until almost the end of the episode.
Well,
it's really different. It's a really different role. It's a really different role.
And like what? Almost 10 years earlier? Like 8?
True. Probably maybe even more, because this was a more recent SVU storyline. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about it.
Also, I'm glad you brought up SVU, because we'll come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, when I talk about, like, again, the Frank Sabatka, like, feeling the real absence of the character, I mostly felt it through his nephew. As well as the Union, obviously, but, like, really with his nephew.
I completely agree.
Last but not least, we're watching the finale of Season 2, Any Port in a Storm. When the body of would-be police informer Frank Sabatka is discovered in a Baltimore harbor, the police decide to start closing in on some of their suspects. When Nick Sabatka, the nephew of the deceased, agrees to cooperate with the police, the various threads of the case start to unravel and provide the Baltimore Police Department with confirmations and confessions that they've been looking for. Meanwhile, due to the corrupt nature of the Brotherhood of Stevedores officers, the U.S. Marshal orders them to either elect new executives or to prepare to be closed up once and for all. Specifically threatens them with decertification, and that their union activities will be managed by, I believe, a local magistrate is what they say. So, Lesley.
Ben.
The Wire.
The Wire.
We decided to tackle this one kind of together. Neither of us had seen it. Neither of us were recommending it. It is, however, obviously one of those shows that people talk about. It's so funny. We could have done like 5 more episodes on HBO crime series and still not have run out of material because obviously
there's a lot.
Yeah. Obviously we covered The Sopranos and whatnot, but we could have done Boardwalk Empire, True Detective, Deadwood, this. So
we were spoiled for choice.
Spoiled for choice, exactly. I think that show The Warrior is also maybe more of a crime one.
Sure.
As well. That's another HBO one. Anyway, but we chose The Wire. I think perhaps in contrast with a lot of our earlier stuff this season, which is definitely more criminal focused. Not that this doesn't have a focus on the criminal elements of the story. Obviously it does. That's the whole point of The Wire. But this one, significantly more so than any of the other shows that we've covered, is about the capital P police in a way that the previous shows have not been. Because even when we've covered detectives in earlier episodes, Columbo is more of a fucking trickster fey spirit than anything.
Yeah. He's not real. He's not real in so many ways.
Jessica Fletcher is not affiliated with the cops, except when she provides, well, whatever. And then, Charlie, obviously, from Poker Face, is she just solves mysteries and then runs away.
Yeah. And so. she's also very, very adamant about the fact that she is not police.
Yeah. So in all three of those cases, we have not really covered the institution of policing in the same way. The point of this season, obviously, is to kind of cover crime from the criminal's perspective, which this show certainly does. But this is the most we have wandered into blue territory, as it were.
Yeah.
So I guess and also, I mean, we've had the conversation in the past about as we moved away from stuff like adult animation and sitcoms and whatnot, we've had the conversation of, what happens when we just plop down in the middle of a drama, like a narrative drama, and we've got our answer by watching the season 2 finale of a show, truly right smack dab in the middle. So I guess, Lesley, what did you think about The Wire and the episode that we picked?
So, I mean, I know that this is probably a sentiment that you most likely share. Wink. But I thought that it was very obvious that this was an episode that is so highly regarded and highly reviewed due to the way that it ties the room together. It's like the dude's rug of episodes in terms of bringing everything together. And obviously, I realized that there's a lot of stuff that I did not cotton on to, that I couldn't comprehend, that I didn't know was happening. But I found myself disappointed by that because I really wanted to know, because it was making me feel things emotionally. It was very emotionally manipulative in its editing, mostly in ways that I deeply enjoy. In ways that I deeply enjoy when I watch television. You know, there are good ways to be emotionally manipulative, and there are bad ways, and this is one of those that knows how to do the musical swells, the montage cuts, you know, those prolonged sad glances down at the body. It just did everything in such a way that I am so curious to just watch this from the beginning now.
Yeah. I think we, for any show, because we debated back and forth about like, well, do we do another pilot or do we hop into the middle of something? I think we at least made the smart move with this show to hop into the middle of something, because those are apparently 5 distinct plot lines over the 5 distinct seasons. So if we were to be worried about spoilers, we only kind of know how one of it ends.
One of it ends. Yeah, because it's sort of an anthology in that each season focuses on a different facet of the machine that makes this work. Mm-hmm. Quote unquote. So, work.
Not that we could possibly quantify it, but it sounds like we're spoiled for less than 20% of it.
Right.
And you know, obviously there's still so much context in this season that we simply just don't have. And I would be excited to go through this and find out what that context is.
Yeah.
I believe I texted you something to the effect of like, I can appreciate, I don't know what the full substance is, but I can appreciate the form. Like to go back to like original building blocks of art kind of talk.
I totally agree.
Form, composition, tone, you know, such things, shape. But no, like I could appreciate the form and I could appreciate like the tone of what it was doing. I could clearly tell like the deaths were significant, the victories were victorious, I could certainly
right.
tell
That's what I was talking about too, with the with that montage of the election and all. I even understood like this feels like this is fucking up somebody's stew here. It's really well done.
Yeah. That even without the context, I think the acting and the editing and all that jazz, as you were saying, really do put things into a certain perspective, and I really did appreciate what this show was doing.
Yeah.
The thing that I started to wonder as I was watching this without the context is I started to think about, obviously, all those other shows that you and I have mentioned already, even today. Your CSIs, your SVUs, your...
Homicide Life on the Street.
Thank you. Your Law and Orders, etc.
Your Law and Orders, every flavor of that.
Yes.
Your Third Watch, etc.
What separates this from those? Obviously budget, but like... What I guess what really makes this not a procedural? Is it just the connective tissue?
I think that it's a few things. Things. I would say that the depth and nuance of characters that are not part of the police force is something that you don't see in procedurals. You don't see, nuanced gray areas when it comes to perps. You don't see that kind of thing. And you don't I would say,
which is what makes stuff like Sopranos and Breaking Bad and this like really stand out.
That's what I'm saying is that part of it, I would say that separates this from a procedural is absolutely the sympathy that it has for morally gray characters. Whereas with police procedurals, for the most part, they turn characters that would otherwise be totally fine into morally gray characters because they're police officers who could do no wrong, so they do wrong stuff all the time to teach the public that it's not wrong and that they shouldn't complain about it. But that's not my soapbox.
There was a line by one of the characters, the character who first pulls the photos of the deceased. Okay, real quick, if you die and they think you're a criminal, do they just show your dead penis to everyone?
Yeah, what was that about? Like he was just like flipping through.
Oh, another day looking at some junk.
Yep. Just a couple of guys being dudes.
The number of times they were like, and do you recognize this man? I'm like, why are you showing me his balls?
Yeah, it was you're like, well, I don't recognize him from that angle.
Yeah, I'm not that acquainted. Anyway, no, it was the guy that was first pulling the photographs of the recently departed Frank Sabatka off of the printer or whatever, and he says like we're policing a culture in moral decline or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was one of the first lines, I think.
It was, because most of the opening of this is relatively quiet, and I do want to touch on that for sure. But anyway, that just provided some real insight into at least how that character thinks, and I'm sure how plenty of those characters end up thinking. So I wrote down some things about, for sure, there is an enormous amount of depth and nuance here that is not necessarily present in like those kind of procedural criminal of the week sort of shows. But among other things, it just seems like, I think, what is it? I looked it up. Your average season of like Law and Order has like 25 episodes.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And this has like 12. And so, you'd have to wonder if like just it a huge chunk of it is resources and what you devote time to. And if you're cramming in like 25 episodes in a season, I could imagine how like a lot of those kind of, is there just not time for that kind of nuance? Or it's just like it feels like the time and attention they're devoting to shooting, editing, etc., putting that kind of effort into, giving these actors presumably time to rehearse and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That perhaps that's just leading toward more, if not intellectual, but more introspective television, because they have time to work on it.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. I just also feel as though police procedurals were never meant to be considered highbrow television. And so I'm not sure how to compare these two, because but your question is a good question. Like, what is it that makes it different? I mean, tonally, obviously it's very different. Getting to say fuck, I guess, showing titties, maybe, like probably that's part of it. Being grittier and more quote unquote mature. But what's weird about it is, like, we saw him flipping through like the several dicks or whatever. And we were like, wow, that's weird. But then on SVU, they'll say all that stuff like the killer had like a necklace he'd made out of vaginas or whatever. So like I don't really know where the line is in terms of like gruesome. Like, I don't really understand what the metric is. I just don't know.
Yeah, where's the limit? What can you refer to? What can you show?
Right.
That kind of stuff. No,
how can you use that to change the tone of your show so that it's not considered a police procedural? Was kind of my point as well. Like, I just don't know.
But I don't know what I was thinking as I was watching this, especially the first time I was watching this, was like, if you filmed this a little worse, I would think it belonged on NBC.
Right.
Because it is a lot of like, people walking into an office and going like, yeah, we got him, McNulty. Kind of stuff. And I'm like, if this were shot worse, I would think this was Blue Bloods, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of time and attention that goes obviously into this montage editing, into the cinematography. Maybe it's like I don't want to say it's a different caliber of actor, but
see, but look at it this way. Pablo Schreiber was like a villain on SVU. So that that line is getting thinner and blurrier all the time, I guess.
Mm-hmm. The thin, blurry line.
The thin, blurry line. Dang! If we picked actual titles for our episodes, that would be this one.
Yeah, that would have been smart. Damn.
Yeah, it'd been.
No, I just think I think of like
we're 3 seasons into this now. We can't start doing it now.
I just think about like the 3 tiers of this kind of media, right? Presumably at the bottom, and stuff like SVU, CSI, etc. Then there's been like this kind of middle area that's recently also occupied by Dick Wolf, which stuff like Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Blue Bloods, where it's like a little more soapy, a little less procedural, a little more soapy. And then this is the third tier, which is we are making capital HBO prestige television.
Yep.
And I don't know. I wonder what if we're talking about the history of genre or whatever, I just wonder where the dividing lines are.
I just feel as though, okay, here's what I think.
Hit me.
Scrap that part. Here's what I think. I think that the success of The Sopranos fostered and brought in a generation of prestige television that we were not prepared for. I think also that up until that time, police procedurals and police stories were just extremely popular and people were tuning into those. So I think that a lot of these, the reason why a lot of prestige television is so gritty is because it's appealing to, like, it's scratching an itch in the human brain that we enjoy.
Oh, certainly. We love sensationalism. We love gratuity. These are things we latch onto.
And I think that, we were discovering for the first time, we can put swears and titties and dicks in these TV shows. We can do that. Like, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be PG-13 anymore. And I think that's how we got a lot of these shows. But also, you can't edit your show's vibe like that. Like, SVU could not just start showing titties and saying fuck this and fuck you cocksucker. Like, you can't do that. Like, you just can't. So I think a lot of those police procedurals, for the most part, are starting to phase out due to the fact that you can see kind of the same thing but grittier. Like what people gravitate toward in SVU and all of those types of shows is the grittiness and the gross shit and the sick shit. But what they're being fed, in the back of the rider is propaganda. So I think that as people have the option to watch the sick shit without the propaganda, you're going to see less of that. I think you're seeing it even now, because if you look, all of the current shows are no longer about, the cops versus the public. Like the newest one is, is about the mob. It can't be like it's a special organization that's like a division that's following the mob, because they had to separate themselves because of propaganda. And if you look, 911, very, very popular, but very not police oriented. It's all about like the 911 operator, and it's about the EMTs, and it's about the firefighter nurses and stuff, because it's fallen. Like, I think that type of easy casual propaganda is starting to fall out of favor.
I mean, good.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah.
Cops is off the air. Gone. Similarly, to back up your point, that there's just less. People just give less of a shit about it.
That's what I'm saying. Well, people never gave a shit about it, but it was what was giving the people the gritty shit they wanted. So they had to put up with this cop beat this guy, but I guess it's okay mentality of it if they wanted to get their sick shit.
Mm-hmm. Busting down doors and all that.
Yeah.
I just finished reading Killers of the Flower Moon, right? For which upon which the Martin Scorsese movie of last year, now nominated for several Oscars, was based. And in that book, they talk about how Hoover was using that case, by which I mean J. Edgar Hoover, not the president.
Right.
J. Edgar Hoover was using that case to kind of solidify his image of what he wanted the FBI to be, and also that he then would take real case files, and that they would be kind of sold or licensed out, whatever the arrangement was, to these to entertainment. So that you got things like the Lucky Strike True Crime Hour as a radio show that would just be doing real case files of the FBI as radio plays or whatever.
Right.
So this little genre that we're in has certainly been around for a while, of just, quite literally, it very much seems like that was one of the first pulled from the headlines mass media situations. Which I hope, I'm not just saying that to be like, that's the origin of true crime and that's what we're dealing with here. But obviously that level of sensationalism and gratuity is something we certainly seem to have craved
people
this
like
entire
it.
time.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's
for the
exactly
last
what
coming up 90 years since the events of that movie.
Yeah.
And the events of that book, I should say.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I guess it's also just kind of different versions of all the sorts of same types of stories for different demographics. That obviously NBC's 7 p.m. demographic and HBO's Sunday night at 8 p.m. demographic are two different demographics, hypothetically. There might be some overlap, but the obviously there's a big difference when something is available on premium cable. There's like quite literally a financial gateway, a financial gate there. Than when something is just available right after the evening news on 7 p.m.
Yeah.
On NBC,
yeah, exactly.
The station that gives you the news.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots to think about. It's
just the same story or the same types of stories for different demographics. And it just seems like one. I just find it interesting what gets the resources, time, and attention to make these really compelling, gray stories about like, oh, well, who's to say who the real criminal is kind of stuff. And then what gets another victory for the American police kind of story. Mm-hmm. I just think it's interesting to,
It is.
So, do you want to talk about that opening sequence?
Yes. I would like to talk about it. I think you had some things you wanted to say about it.
Yeah, so not a full... I really like when Better Call Saul does this, as I believe I mentioned during our Better Call Saul episode with Jeff, where what I call it jazz crime time, which is when the soundtrack takes over and the characters stop talking, and you see them doing a bunch of prep work for a crime and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
The
Jazz
Mike's
Crime
character,
Time.
yeah, Jazz Crime Time.
Jazz Crime
Mike
Time.
In Breaking Bad and
Sure.
Better Call Saul does it a lot, where he's like scoping out a house, or you see him putting together something. And you're like, what's that going to be used for? And then later it's like a Home Alone trap or whatever.
Yeah.
I like moments like that in television shows, especially because I think it really requires you, the listener, or the viewer rather, to focus in on everything. The opening sequence, especially in those Better Call Saul versions where it kind of feels like a puzzle, but the opening sequence of this show, where I don't know, there's some there's that initial conversation between the first couple of dock workers, and then it just goes quiet for like maybe a solid 3 or 4 minutes before
Definitely,
it's
yeah.
finally interrupted by like, hey, can we talk to Homicide? We found a floater out here in the da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
But like for those
yeah.
middle 3 minutes, it's like pretty quiet.
It's quiet and slow. Quiet and slow.
Quiet and slow, yeah. It's a lot of like, Pablo Schreiber's character running back and forth from like the car to the office to check on his uncle, who he is very worried is the body that they are investigating on the dock. And all of the various dock workers kind of walking and then kind of running over to the scene of the accident. As we're kind of left to piece together what's happening. Pablo's character, whose name is Nick, I don't know why I'm not just saying Nick. Nick Sabatka says like later on, it's like, oh, I was walking around there and God, once I saw his truck, I knew it was him, all that kind of stuff. But like, it's really fun that we get to piece that together in the beginning. And we get to really just sit in the aftermath of, oh God, a real human has died.
Mm-hmm. I also, this is such a small, tiny nitpick thing, but I really enjoyed that the truck window was dirty when he was when that was such a detail that I deeply appreciated.
Yeah. I'm not. What I liked a lot was the kind of naturalism of this world. I'm not going to claim I grew up in a like super industrial part of Portland or whatever, but like there were like a lot of like in the section that I grew up in, there was like a lot of still quite a bit of like gas stations and like lumber flooring resale, like a lot of kind of construction suppliers in the area. So they're like a lot of like, again, guys in high vis, dirty pickup trucks, kind of moving around sort of stuff. Like all not in my backyard, but like, a couple, like half mile away or whatever.
Okay.
In that area of Portland I'm from.
I'm seeing it.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. It was like really, it was nice to exist in a world that didn't feel, as opposed to how stylized Death and Other Details was. What I liked about this was how incredibly natural it very much felt.
Yes.
How much like, I mean, as I was watching that, I was like, oh, I live in areas where, the grass is just overgrowing the sidewalks and there's huge fences with holes in them with a construction placard for something that hasn't been worked on in a year. And, it just felt very much like, oh yeah, that's just what a real city feels like.
It feels very real.
It's not being elevated up and cinematography. Oh my God.
It's not being stylized.
It's not being stylized. It's not being edited for this huge cinematic version of it. And don't get me wrong, I love those huge cinematic cities, obviously.
Sure, we all do. Do. That's eye candy right there. But this puts you in the setting and in the story in a way that is so simple that you don't see in a lot of more manicured cinematography.
Yeah, and this felt very normal dirty. I was just like, yeah, this is just what it's like living in like half city, half suburb, half construction, half industrial. Like this is just like what it feels to live in like middle of the road wherever. And I appreciated, the dirt on windows, the really unadorned brickwork buildings and parking lots with the, all their normal dividers. It just felt very, very natural. And I'm thinking about like stylization and, all this kind of set design. And again, I love when it goes stylized, don't get me wrong. But I think that's absolutely something that kind of like prepares you for what you're about to experience. It's the whole, we bring into media what we take with ourselves, whatever the phrase is, that, we have certain expectations of the media that we're watching based on all of those kind of tiny little factors. And I think one of the reasons I think I'm praising maybe that kind of natural vacuum that one character's death left is because it feels like a real person died, because I very much feel like I'm taking place, or this story's taking place in a very real world. That it's not just for TV. The Only Murders in the Building, for example, is again a very heightened world. Obviously it's a goofy Steve Martin and Martin Short comedy. When someone dies, it's like bad, obviously, but it's still, there's like plenty of like playing it for laughs, and there's plenty of like,
it is kind of reminiscent of like a Mark Cherry joint, like a Desperate Housewives or whatever.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. It's my God,
it's campy.
Who could have done this?
It's campy.
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas like by setting it in this kind of setting, it feels so much more real. And you would think like, oh, what if I had like a tight knit, say, I'm thinking about that union, a tight knit like group of like 20 guys, and one of us was just found dead.
Right. Yeah.
A thing I would never imagine happening at a normal anywhere I went.
No.
I could not imagine. I could not imagine what the impact of a real human being was murdered would have on my neighborhood.
And that's something I actually think about. That's actually something I think about when I watch SVU. Because yes, I watch it. But when I watch it, I think about the fact that they go to these random people that may or may not be witnesses and are like, look at this gruesome body. Do you know who this person is? And it's like they're missing half their face. And it's like, why would you, like, you can't show that to a normal person. That's not a thing.
No, of course, yeah.
That's not a thing. So I think that the reverence with which this death on this show was treated in terms of how people were shocked, how people were reacting, how people were like in resigned mourning, how like the other workers on the dock were like there was a little bit of gossip, and then like everybody was quiet. It was so much more considered and carefully done than television deaths typically are.
Yeah. The Union Hall, the dock. I mean, hell, Nick just watching cartoons with his daughter, and he's just like spaced out.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine how, I'm thankful and grateful enough that kind of thing has never happened in my vicinity, obviously.
Right.
But I cannot imagine how much like a real death would rock the boat. Like that.
And
I think this show did a wonderful job of portraying exactly that. Again, because the setting felt so natural, it very much felt like, well, fuck, that could be my neighborhood.
Right.
And I think it's it's to the benefit of the show that obviously it sets up such a realistic feeling world that it makes all of those moments hit that much harder.
I agree.
That even something like, to kind of tie it back to, The Sopranos feels exaggerated in places.
Sure it does.
Obviously, those are like kind of, those are very exaggerated, larger than life characters. Whereas, I don't know, so many of these people in The Wire just feel like completely normal people.
Yeah, because they're very understated. There aren't any caricatures, really.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great way of saying that.
There really aren't any caricatures in The Wire, whereas The Sopranos is full of archetype-like caricatures.
Yeah, and I would certainly say the same thing for Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad as well. Those are very intentionally strong personalities who have like, Breaking Bad makes characters like they're following the rules for animation, where the characters have like color schemes, and,
right? Yeah,
and
that's
specific
true.
frames. Like you can like you can like sketch Gus Fring, you know what I mean? Like as a animated character.
Right. That's true. That's true.
That doesn't quite work here. And I think like, again, because of its more stylized nature, when someone dies in Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, I don't feel it as realistically as I feel it more like an actor walking off the stage than I feel it like, you know what I mean?
When somebody dies on one of those shows, that death is a plot device. This did not feel like that. Mm-hmm. Even though it quite obviously was, it didn't feel that way. Yeah. It didn't feel that way. And I think that that's what we're both so impressed by.
Yeah. That I can feel the artifice of acting and writing on a show like Breaking Bad. And I like that artifice. A lot of the time I like that artifice. But when I noticed there wasn't that kind of same artifice here, that's what really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Damn. Wire's good.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I want to fire it up from the beginning. Let's go.
Yeah. And I liked, especially in that opening sequence, how contemplative and slow that was to really
yeah, it
set
really
the
dragged,
mood.
like really just lured you in for sure.
Exactly. I liked the line, we're putting people in jail with wiretaps and typewriters now, after the two cops complain about feeling like they were kind of left on the outside and not being informed that Nick turned himself in. I liked that because I think it's the same thing I kind of liked about, oh goodness me, the 5 criminals who do heists.
Yeah. Leverage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I liked about Leverage, where I'm like, oh, they're not intentionally, it's a very realistic depiction of the technology that they would have available to them. Mm-hmm, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And obviously I realize that's the point of The Wire. But what I liked about Leverage, it was like, oh yeah, they're talking about like facial recognition tech and normal MacBooks that you can just buy from the store and whatnot. And it all felt very like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it was like in 2011 or whatever. These are the actual constraints that we have in 2011. And so similarly, I liked and appreciated that about this, where it's like, yeah, it is stuff like multiplexed cameras and blurry, black and white security cameras and all that kind of stuff. It's tech, and tech has changed policing. And I liked seeing something that was like accurately reflecting that in the moment. It's all security cameras and cell phone pings and stingrays and stuff now. And it's less sitting in cars and watching and waiting and hoping you're at the right place in the right time. Although there was plenty of waiting for the right place at the right time in this episode with all the conveniently photographable crime.
My gosh, yes, we did mention that, didn't we? We did. When we were texting each other, we're like, so maybe you should have your secret crime meeting inside. Perhaps you should have it somewhere where you can't be easily photographed outside. Maybe. Just a thought.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I think I acknowledge that's the inside of the entire show, is that technology is changing policing. As well as the whole concept of like, no, the whole town's kind of in on it. Aspect of
well, show. Yeah, because this episode, from what I understand, or not this episode, this season 2 is kind of an examination of how the drug trade affects a town, affects a city.
Yeah, very much so.
So yeah.
Anyway, I found that fascinating.
Yeah, it was real good. You know what else was real good, Ben?
Is it this show?
It was this season of the show. How about that?
We have covered 13 different crime shows. I liked pretty much all of them. I thought this was a good kind of roundup of television. I saw a lot of things I don't think I would have maybe normally watched. And I think, got a lot of good insights into what this genre is. What do you think?
Well, I think that neither of us would have watched Dexter. And that's fine. I think that we did a really, really great job of finding 13 shows in which the propaganda was cut down to like an absolute minimum while also celebrating crime, particularly heists. And I had a great time. And, I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking about how we're going to upload this and say, all right, listeners, this is it for the season. And then I was like, we don't know what we're doing next. We don't know what next season's going to be yet.
I know. And
We
there's
got
plenty
like
of genres
2
left
weeks to
explore.
find out. We got like 2 weeks to figure it out, man.
And there's plenty left to explore.
Yeah.
We got fantasy, sci-fi, procedurals, medical, any number of, maybe even more than 4.
More than
Possible.
4. There are definitely at least 5.
I just started panicking and listing genres, but I'm sure there's plenty.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty. I think I'm very happy that we did crime, and I cannot wait to figure out what we should be doing next.
Me neither. I will say, based on our conversations earlier this episode and a bit at the tail end of the last episode, is the more we spend time here, it kind of does feel like this almost feels like the original television genre. You know what I mean? Like there's something about our interest in, as you mentioned, gratuity and crime and scandal and pulled from the headlines real events, that it feels like this just feels older in a way, or older or a more consistent backbone of media than, say,
maybe
other
more
stuff.
Timeless, maybe
More timeless. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like, I don't know, audiences of all centuries have latched on to the gruesome truth.
We all love our garbage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, very much like the other 2 subjects that we've covered, the office sitcom is...
The workplace comedy.
The workplace comedy is obviously much more recent. Adult animation
that's
more...
super, like, that's more recent than the first genre. So yeah, I would say this is probably the most well-worn, visited genre of the 3 that we have discussed thus far.
Yeah. This is something that, someone's pulling up their newspaper in 1910 and just be like, my God, did you hear?
Sherlock Holmes caught another one. Yeah, no, it's I mean, so that's like an 1800s, so.
The year is 2024. I watch The Wire and think, damn, Baltimore is fucked. The year is 1890. I'm reading the newspaper. I think, damn, Baltimore is fucked.
Baltimore is fucked. Oh, no.
No, but you know what I mean? It just feels like, this is something we've always, in the same way we have not always latched onto stoner comedies that are animated for Adult Swim. We have definitely, crime has been around for a while, and crime will always entice us going forward.
It's true. Well,
so it was nice. It was nice to, we talk about the history of television as a concept a lot, but it was kind of nice to really dive into literally the history of what we find entertaining.
I think that this was a great genre for that reason, because so much prestige television comes from this genre. So I think that we got to discuss a lot of topics that adult animation and the workplace comedy just didn't afford us.
Yeah,
so I'm really quite pleased with that. Let's figure out what to do next. Let's figure it out.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us on this little journey of Season 3 of Syndicated with Lesley and Ben. As mentioned, I am the Ben of that. You can find me online at allmylinks.com/Ben C. Hamlin. I am no longer on Twitter.
Nice.
As I've announced a dozen times already, but you can check out all of our other work over at infinitybreak.net, where we're telling stories our own way. Lesley.
You can find me on Blue Sky or Twitter once every couple months or so at Vanetti when I'm feeling it. Otherwise, send out a carrier pigeon. It'll be cool.
Thank you so much for coming along with us again on this season. We are very excited to announce whatever is going to be happening next. We'll try to keep you in the loop about that as soon as we have figured out what that is going to be. I'm glad we covered the shows that we covered. Some real highs and lows this season, but I think some really solid TV throughout, and I'm glad we got a chance to talk about this, Lesley.
Yeah, I'm glad too, Ben.
All right, folks. We'll see you next season with more Syndicated.
See you next season.
With Lesley and Ben.